looks to us on TV like he's saying, don't worry, I'm just going to get more bang for the buck here. Meantime, Smithson's trying to argue, I barely touched him. And then Mike Bernstein, the trainer's in, and he's having a look, and you can see Burrows say, don't worry, has he signaled 5 yet? And here comes the big moment where it's a 5 and a game misconduct. When it's an injury to the head or face area on a charge, it's an automatic game misconduct. This replay gives you an indication that it was just a bit of a glancing blow. In any event, he said that because he looked bad, Alex Burrows did, because Auger was embarrassed by the embellishing, he was going to get him. First of all, do you agree with our assessment that that's why Terry Gregson rescinded the game misconduct?
Well, we discussed those with Terry Gregson. The general manager of the opposing team, Nashville, requests us to rescind the game misconduct, so it's not on his record, because some cases 2, in other cases 3, lead to an automatic 1-game suspension. So Terry looked at it, and if he decides he's going to rescind that game misconduct, he has a discussion with the referee who assessed it. And he had a discussion with Stéphane Auger, and he said, we're going to rescind it. And yes, I agreed with the rescinding of the game misconduct because we didn't feel it was a 5-minute penalty, and it could have been a 2-minute penalty, no problem, but we felt it didn't deserve a game misconduct of 5.
Because of that video evidence that had happened later that night when Terry looked at the tape, or what?
We looked at everything in the video.
Now, you obviously talked to Stéphane about the decision to go ahead. How does he feel? Referees must feel a little bit like they've been undercut when a decision like that's overturned.
Yeah, and that's why Terry handles it. Not hockey operations, but right goes directly to Terry. And Terry, you talk referee talk. Stephen Walken did it, Andy Van Helmen did it, Brian Lewis did it. You talk to him, we'll give you our input, but we're not going to make the decision. We don't want to look like we're undermining referees, and we can make all our calls from, what'd you call it, around the ivory tower where we work.
Once upon a time.
Right, but we add our hockey thoughts to it, and we say, Terry, you make the call, you got to deal with the referee on display.
Do you think it was a good move to put Auger back into the rematch on January the 11th?
Well, we don't pick and choose when it gets down to the playoffs. We certainly pick and choose for the last 2 weeks of the season when we think there's real difficult, tough games, and referees understand that we put more experienced people into games, but in some situations we just let it roll because they have to get back on the so-called horse and do what they have to do. I don't think it really mattered. It was Nashville, Ron.
Well, no, but it's the Burrows had obviously embellished, and he got caught. So it's Burrows and him now. A lot of people. Did we show already the discussion that took place? I think I saw it out of the corner of my eye. Okay, we'll lead you through some of these things, but obviously there's been some derision about Auger's decision to go pre-game and talk to Alex. I can't imagine he said, "I'll get you." We all agree on that, but people are, and you seem to think that it mightn't have been the time. I thought it was a good time to go with to create that rapport, to manage the conflict.
Well, as it turns out, you have to be careful. You have to address and assess the situation. What type of referee are you? The players you're dealing with. What kind of history do you have with them? Auger felt he had, I guess they spoke in French, so he felt there would be no miscommunication, English to French, French to English, and he made a call. We don't think it was the wisest call at that time when you look at the situation. As a coach,
what did he say? Can you please tell us what he said?
What did Auger say?
Yeah.
Auger said basically, but I don't have his words in front of me, but he referenced that game and that you embarrassed me on that call, trying to turn a 2-minute call into a 5-minute call, and he said, Burrows said, yes, but he said, it was a penalty, wasn't it? He said, yes, it was a penalty, but you came right back and played, and you embarrassed me in that call. And all referees feel embarrassed when players suck out that 5-minute major from a 2-minute call, and we have those all the time, and right back to, I can reference a lot, but we all remember Pat Burns not letting the trainer go out to look at Claude Lemieux in the Calgary-Montreal series. So it's something that we have to make. We make those calls in the playoffs, Ron. We address the referees. We tell them what players we think in the series have been embellishing, have been diving, and we let them know because our managers and coaches want us to use common sense and let them know. I want to get to your watch list because that's been, since the lockout especially, I think the referees have changed a little bit and it's great. But anyway, here's Burrow's history. First of all, there was the spear. This is going back to 2008, the spear on Pierre-Marc Bouchard of the Minnesota Wild.
You'll see if you watch just a little jab there, no suspension, right? You just had a look at it, but they were hot and it led to this little bit of a riot. So this happened in 08, and that same season there was another incident where he leapt at J.P. Dumont of the Nashville Predators, just leaving his feet, would be a charging penalty, but no suspension. Obviously, again, it was one of those little knock on the head there, led to a bit of chicanery. Now the following year, we have a couple of incidents. Aaron Downey of Detroit in the pregame warm-up, I won't get into what was said, it's actually humorous to a lot of us, but he caused this, and Downey clearly engages and gets upset. So it was a bit of a problem. No suspension, though. Any fine out of that for Burrows? I think Downey got, or do you recall?
We fined Downey.
Just Downey, yeah.
Yes.
Obviously for the stick. And then the next thing was Zach Stortini is coming over here, and on the bench, Alex Burrows from the players' bench, we'll spotlight him here, punches, and for that you gave a $2,500 fine. To which Alex Burrows said, no, don't run that yet, you guys. It's actually the quote we want. You know where we're leading with that. So the Stortini thing happened in April of 09. To the $2,500 fine, Burrows said, Campbell said I was on his watch list for a while. He said there were 2 incidents last year. Obviously, that's J.P. Dumont and Pierre-Marc Bouchard. And that with my reputation, he was watching me. I told him I've been good lately. I don't know why I should be on the watch list. So he's not appreciating the watch list.
Well, basically, Ron, we didn't catch that play you showed with Stortini. That's usually we give a game suspension or something like that. CBC did not show that right away. No, but we
That's
caught
our next topic.
But we caught it later on that night, or early next morning. I caught it, and I didn't think it was fair to Mike Gillis and the Vancouver organization, who had a game that night, to suspend him without some warning. And so I said, I'm going to fine him for sure. And I'm going to tell him he's on a short leash here after this.
Do you think as a player, and this is you as a player, if you were Burrows, are you now harboring anger? Is this whole idea of putting up notes, $1,000 for the first dive, $2,000 for the second, game suspension if you dive a third time and you're on a list circulated around the NHL, do you think that we're putting the players in a position where they're going to snap eventually, and Burrows did?
Well, you know what? It was the manager's idea, and we haven't done that now for about 5 years.
Okay.
And we...
So you have no watch list at all anymore?
No, and the only watch list we have is we create one verbally in the playoffs. Our supervisors tell the referees coming in what's been going on in the playoffs, and we said, look, this player's dove 3 times and drawn 3 penalties. Enough of this, and we let them know.
Because here again, the Chicago highlight you saw with Habibulin comes from last year's Stanley Cup playoffs. In Game 4, there he is taunting Nikolai Habibulin on the TV timeouts. That's in Chicago, and incidentally, the referee, one of them that night, was Dennis Leroux, who would be part of the storyline we're going to get to here in a second, and we'll move this along. But here's the other one, Game 5. Absolutely unbelievable to all of us that this would go on. So now, let's listen to what Burrows had to say the other night after the game on Monday.
Even in the second period, every TV timeout, I'm allowed to go out there with Hank and Danny. We skate around for just to refresh and refocus. And he came right over in the second, and he didn't even want me to step on the ice, even though I didn't do anything bad. So that's just the kind of refereeing we're dealing with every night.
So was it Leroux that said it, or Auger, or do you know?
I'm not sure who said it, no.
But Leroux would obviously be on, that's one of those, your sins will sort you out. Burrows has clearly made his bed. What do you suggest? Does it upset you more that Vigneault is defending Burrows, who's been doing this now, we've just proved, for quite some time?
Well, basically, Ron, is a couple of points here. Number one, you're not supposed to skate during timeouts. You're basically not supposed to skate. So whether it's Alexander Burrows or any National Hockey player, I know some do, and we're not hard on that, but you're not supposed to go for a skate. Secondly, I don't blame Alain Vigneault, it's his player. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that we did not like, and he was fined for this, is that look, if you got a disagreement, you got some opinions to express about the officiating of the National Hockey League and the integrity of it, then talk to your coach and general manager. And if you want to talk to me, we'll talk afterwards.
But that's secrecy, Colin. That I have less. That to me is like cover-up stuff. I'm more upset that he said it, that he implied that your referee Auger that night was out to get him, and he actually might have influenced the outcome of a hockey game. And the coach corroborates the player's accusation.
It's not, well, there's no cover-up here. There's lots of...
The reason if you fine him for not talking to... If you fine him, sorry, for talking to the media.
We're not fining him for talking to the media. We're fining him for saying what he said to the media. He can say whatever he wants to the media as long as it's in the proper place in this game. And I think, in a lot of ways, common sense dictates what you should and shouldn't say. There's a lot of rules out there, but you should understand when you go to the heart of the matter like he did, and in questions the integrity of the referee, he can come to us and say, look, Ron, I've had lots of managers call me in the job I'm doing, and some owners and presidents and really laying on the line about officiating. They're passionate people, but that stays within closed doors. And maybe not now, but in the 80s and 90s when you and I were a lot younger and had more hair, what was said on the ice stayed on the ice. And that doesn't happen anymore.
I'm no longer young enough to think I know it all. We wish we could go on for hours, refereeing and hockey talk. But here's Mike Murphy, Senior Vice President of the Hockey Operations, is over at the Roger Nielsen Video Room. The other big story, Mike, sorry to kind of run along here, but that's interesting, is, of course, the Simon Gagne goal this week, Pittsburgh-Philadelphia, was missed because the Pittsburgh broadcasters failed to come up with the right replay in time, and the puck was dropped. So tell us what you're going to do to try and solve that situation.
Well, Ron, we don't think it's happened in the past, so it's not really a problem. It's a situation that arose, and it's been immediately dealt with, and we addressed it with the Pittsburgh